Hello, folks. Welcome to week 3 of our workshop. We are now officially halfway through our workshop, and I think I've arrived at one of my more favorite topics of writing the spiritual narrative, and that is dealing with our koans. What are our koans? Well, first of all, we have to answer the question, what is a koan? A koan is a puzzle or a riddle that Zen masters used to give their students to force them to encounter doubt, and to push their way into enlightenment. And the sort of two key words around a koan are, one, paradox. There's often a paradox in there that sort of pushes against itself, that defies logic. And the idea was that these koans would help the students sort of sidestep logic to get at a deeper truth. And I think koans sort of reveal for us the way in which logic can have shortcomings. I think logic can be a powerful way to know ourselves and know the world around us. But when we're dealing with the spiritual world and when we're dealing with spiritual matters, there is a deeper knowledge and a deeper sort of understanding that I think these Zen masters understood. Sometimes logic can get in the way of that. And so the koan was designed to introduce doubt and to really present a problem that students had to push against. And in the pushing against that puzzle and trying to figure out that puzzle, they would arrive at enlightenment. So I want to give you an example of a koan. There is one called The Cup of Tea. And in this story, a Japanese master during, it says, the Meiji era in 1868 to 1912, received a university professor who wanted to learn about Zen. And so this Japanese master said, well, come, have some tea. And he sat down across from the professor, and he started to serve the professor tea. And he began to pour tea into the cup, and he poured and he poured and he poured until the cup was over full and flowing, and he kept pouring and pouring and pouring until finally the professor couldn't take it anymore, and he said, stop, it's full, it can't take any more tea. At which point the Japanese master looked at the university professor and said, you are so full of your own knowledge and expectations. How can I teach you anything about Zen until you empty your cup? So there's an example of a koan. And so how do we take these koans and translate them into literary nonfiction, into our own journey, our own sort of autobiography and memoirs? Well, I have for you this week an essay by the man named David James Duncan. Sorry, I'm pulling up my notes. He wrote an essay called The Mickey Mantle Koan. And in this essay, he sets himself a koan in the form of an object. And this object is a signed baseball by Mickey Mantle that was sent to his dying brother. And unfortunately, his brother died before the baseball got to him. And so over the years, this baseball has sat on the mantle. His mother's put it on the mantle, and it has created this puzzle for David in that it touches some kind of deep-seated grief about his brother's death that he has a hard time really accessing and understanding. And so throughout the course of the essay, he sort of sets this baseball up as his koan, and he pushes against it throughout the essay, and he goes down he sort of goes off on these tangents and goes down memory lane and reminisces about his brother and about the baseball and the way it was sent to him, and sort of works around it until he finally arrives at an unexpected answer about why this baseball is creating so much tension for him. So we're going to read that together. I've posted it in the week 3 folder for you. And we will probably discuss it later on at the end of this week and into the next week as we talk about craft and the way that he handles his koan. But your job this week is to ask yourself, what are your koans? And your writing prompt, you'll see in the handout, is about finding those objects, those places, those people in your lives that have always sort of puzzled you, and asking yourself, what kind of questions does this object or person or place create for me? And I want you to follow that koan. I want you to follow that puzzle and that riddle in your writing and really press into it and see what kind of revelation it renders for you. You'll see in the handout I gave you just a few things to remember as you're writing this week: to be honest with yourself and your reader, to try to avoid platitude and cliches. If you find yourself veering into platitude and cliche, veer right back out of it. Brendan Miller and Suzanne Paula in their book Tell It Slant say if you find yourself stuck in complaint, try to laugh your way out of it. And then also they remind us to try to find details, tones, and rhythms that help separate us from the choir as we're talking about these spiritual things. And lastly, I encourage you to be brave as you're writing. I know we're writing about some really personal things, but you are creating some beautiful works of art in this workshop. I'm really enjoying reading your essays. So thank you for engaging in this with me. If you have any more questions about the koan and about this week's workshop prompt, let me know, and I look forward to seeing what you all come up with. Bye.